Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Hladini Shakti Rasmad Ekatmana Vapi Bhuvi Pura Dehabhitam Katau Tau Chaitanyakyam prakatam aduna tadvayam chekyamaptam Radha bhavaduti subalitam nomi Krishna swarupam Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Hladini Shakti Rasmad Ekatmana Vapi Bhuvipura Dehabedam Gatau Tau Chaitanyakyam prakatam aduna tadvayam chekyamaptam Radha bhavaduti subalitam nomi Krishna swarupam The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestations of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separated themselves eternally. Now these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This text is from the diary of Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami. It appears as the fifth of the first 14 verses of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Text 56. Radha Krishna Eka Atma Dui Dehadhari Anyonye Vilasi Rasa Aswadana Kori. Radha and Krishna are one and the same, but they have assumed two bodies. Thus they enjoy each other, tasting the mellows of love. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The two transcendentalists, Radha and Krishna, are a puzzle to materialists. The above description of Radha and Krishna from the diary of Srila Swarup Damodar Goswami is a condensed explanation. But one needs great spiritual insight to understand the mystery of these two personalities. One is enjoying in two. Sri Krishna is the potent factor, and Srimati Radharani is the internal potency. According to Vedanta philosophy, there is no difference between the potent and the potencies. They are identical. We cannot differentiate between one and the other, any more than we can separate fire from heat. Everything in the absolute is inconceivable in relative existence. Therefore, in relative cognizance, it is very difficult to assimilate this truth of the oneness between the potent and the potency. The philosophy of inconceivable oneness and difference, propounded by Lord Chaitanya, is the only source of understanding for such intricacies of transcendence. In fact, Radharani is the internal potency of Sri Krishna, and she eternally intensifies the pleasure of Sri Krishna. Impersonalists cannot understand this without the help of a Mahabhagavat devotee. The very name Radha suggests that Srimati Radharani is eternally the topmost mistress of the comforts of Sri Krishna. As such, she is the medium transmitting the living entity's service to Sri Krishna. As such, she is the medium transmitting the living entity's service to Sri Krishna. Devotees in Vrindavan, therefore, seek the mercy of Srimati Radharani in order to be recognized as loving servitors of Sri Krishna. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally approaches the fallen conditioned souls of the Iron Age to deliver the highest principle of transcendental relationships with the Lord. The activities of Lord Chaitanya are primarily in the role of the pleasure-giving portion of his internal potency. The absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the omnipotent form of transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss in full. His internal potency is exhibited first as sat, or existence, or in other words, as the portion that expands the existence function of the Lord. When the same potency displays full knowledge, it is called chit or samvit, which expands the transcendental forms of the Lord. Finally, when the same potency plays as a pleasure-giving medium, it is known as hladini, or the transcendental blissful potency. Thus the Lord manifests his internal potency in three transcendental divisions. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestation of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, they separated themselves eternally. Now these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. On behalf of all of Radha Gopinath community, we welcome you, each of you, to this very long-awaited festival of Gaur Purnima. It is under this full moon that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared within this world. He came especially to bring us together in a spirit of loving service to the Supreme Lord and one another, to chant Radharani and Krishna's holy names. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that Lord Chaitanya came with his associates from the spiritual world to break open the treasure chest of prema, ecstatic love of God. Kaviraj Goswami tells that when Radha and Krishna appeared in this world long ago, they tasted this treasure of love of God and revealed it to the world. But only most intimate, advanced personalities could enter into it. Because on the spiritual platform, everything is utterly inconceivable to anyone who is limited by the material ego and the modes of material nature. With our intellect, with our minds, with our studies, with our austerities, with whatever spiritual practices we may follow, still, the realities of the spiritual world are inconceivable. Just the idea of eternity, we can consider it and think we understand it. But actual understanding means realization. It means actually to be there. Jnana in vijnana. Jnana is like reading the label of something you'd really like to eat. But vijnana is tasting it and getting all the nutrients of it. We have doctors here from Bhaktivedanta Hospital. You can tell all the ingredients in a medicine, but the theory does not cure you. You have to take it. You have to experience it. So this idea of achintya, inconceivable, is at the very heart of understanding the spiritual world. It can only be understood when the inconceivable reveals the inconceivability to us who are so inconceivably conceivable. I don't know what I said. You probably don't either. In other words, the spiritual truths of the material world, the spiritual world, can only be understood when they are revealed to us. If Krishna, who is inconceivable, cannot reveal the inconceivable to the finite living entities, then he's not inconceivable. He could do anything. Daiviheshu gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mami vamya papadyante maya me tatarantite. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita that this material energy is very difficult to overcome. But one who takes shelter, one who surrenders, Krishna reveals. Krishna liberates us. When it's impossible to understand what is the eternal paravyoma, the spiritual world, the simple thing is nothing exists beyond here. or it's all just a light. But to understand the intricacies of what is actually the innermost recesses of spiritual realization, that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to reveal to us. So Radha and Krishna's pastimes were like locked in this treasure case. And Lord Chaitanya and his associates, they broke open this treasure house of love of God. And while hearing about Krishna and chanting Krishna's names, they tasted together, they tasted the sweetness of the unlimited happiness of the spiritual world, of Prema Bhakti, of Vrindavan. And not only, but they distributed it to anyone and everyone who would simply accept it. They did not consider who was fit or who was unfit. They did not consider which time was auspicious or inauspicious, which place was auspicious or inauspicious. They did not consider sex or caste or nationality or race. They didn't even consider species. They were distributing this supreme love, Prema Bhakti, love of God, to whoever would accept it. This morning, I had an idea what I was going to think about. And then after japa, another thought came to my mind. I was just pondering the condition of the world today. So it's always been, but it's especially prominent, so much division and so much fear, paranoia, violence, hate, suspicion on the basis of the divisions in this world. And unless we're completely purified of all material influences, then even as devotees, and even as a spiritual movement, we will be affected. And we see even within our spiritual movement, there's so many divisions which are bringing about distrust and animosity. But it's everywhere. It's called, Kali Yuga is progressing. In a few months, there will be the monsoon rain season. So here in Mumbai, there's going to be torrential rainstorms. And it's not if you go to Shivaji Park and you're standing outside, it's not that because you're a devotee, the rain is not going to fall on you. It's not because you know Bhagavad Gita by memory, or because you chant 16 rounds a day, that the rain is not going to fall on you. It's falling everywhere. It's just a matter of how we take shelter of the Lord to not actually be affected up by it. Kali Yuga is especially defined by two symptoms: quarrel and hypocrisy. Now, of all the traits of Kali Yuga, Why the first one that's emphasized is quarrel? Because that influence, that propensity is so deep. And it creates so much illusion, suffering, and bondage. How many of us within our own minds sometimes quarrel with ourselves? We quarrel with our family, we quarrel with our friends, we quarrel between races, between nations, between even religions. That propensity to quarrel is so all-pervading and creates such division. In fact, our beloved Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, one of his most emphatic instructions to the leaders of the Krishna conscious society is when the leaders come together every year, he said you should discuss unity in diversity. Why did he stress that? It's actually at the very heart of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. Namo Mahabharanaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Goura Purnima. This is a prayer spoken and written by Srila Rupa Goswami. And where did he speak this prayer? It happened to be at Prayag, where 3 rivers become one. Unity and diversity. He's praising that Krishna has come in many incarnations. The supreme absolute truth. But Lord Chaitanya, he is the most magnanimous of all incarnations, because he's giving something that no other incarnation has given so freely. Krishna Prema, pure love for Krishna. An understanding, a realization, and an entrance into the eternal spiritual realm. Among the acharyas through the ages, each has a prominent theme of the philosophy that they have taught. There's monism, there's Advaita, there's Dvaita, there's Vishuddha Dvaita, there's Shuddha Dvaita. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his philosophy has been named Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. The truth of inconceivable simultaneous unity and diversity. Now we understand the need for unity and diversity in this mortal world that we're living. Otherwise there's so much fight. There's really no possibility to love each other unless there's unity and diversity, because everything and everyone is different. But yet everything and everyone is the same too. There's 8 material elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and the ego. Our bodies, our minds, our intellect, we're all made of these same elements. But in each one of us, they're very, very specially and uniquely combined. Yes. You have a body, I have a body, even our own body. Your body's made of the same elements, essentially, when you're born and when you're an old person about to die. You're the same person because you're the eternal soul within the body. But also the body is made of the same elements. They're just assembled in different ways. There are no two atoms that are identical. Each atom is unique. We may not be able to perceive the uniqueness, even with our microscopes and telescopes, whatever, but still, on a very subtle level, every element of material nature is different, but yet it's the same elements. The Achintya Veda philosophy is teaching on the basis of the great scriptures, the Vedanta Sutra, the Puranas, the Upanishads, the Itihastas, how even in the realm of the spiritual eternal world, there is limitless diversity, and at the same time, complete oneness. The Vedanta Sutra begins with this principle, Janmadhyasya, that the absolute truth is the one source from which everything and everyone emanates. And this is the first of the nutshell verses of Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. Krishna tells, I am the source of all spiritual and all material worlds. From me, everything emanates. The wise who know this perfectly engage in serving me and worshiping me with all their hearts. Oneness is at the heart of everything. But what is that oneness? What is the glory of that oneness? What is the unlimited nature of that one? In Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a profound verse that if we understand it very deeply, it could resolve all the problems of all material existence. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. That the one supreme absolute truth, Advaita, is eternally, forever, with three features. Brahman, the all-pervading, apparently impersonal light that's everywhere. That's simply pure existence, pure eternity. And Paramatma, that supreme truth, that conscious aspect of the one supreme Godhead that is within the heart of every living being, who is in each of us, who knows everything in the past, all things happening in the present, and all things yet to come. That person is inside your heart. So we should be careful. We should be careful what we say and what we do and how we treat people, because we're being watched. It's not that we're just being watched from the sky by demigods or gods. We're being watched within our heart. If you whisper, Paramatma hears you. If you think a thought, Paramatma hears you. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, he's not just watching as a judge. The Paramatma is watching as our innermost, eternal, most well-wishing friend. So we could be very happy about having a Paramatma in our heart. He is truly Suhridam Sarvabhutanam, the most well-wishing, loving friend of all living beings. Aham bija pratapita, the father and the mother of everyone. Sometimes fathers and mothers, they correct you. They may even punish you. But it's always with love. Paramatma loves everyone. And Bhagavan, Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti shabdyate. Bhagavan is the supreme person, the personality of Godhead. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. The supreme absolute truth who has form that is not made of any material ingredients. Not under the forces of time. Satchit Ananda Vigraha. A form, a personality that is eternal, full of knowledge, and full of happiness. Because Srila Prabhupada used an example, if a little frog is living in a well, for that frog who was born in the well, knows nothing but that well, the length and breadth of that well is the only reality. If another frog just jumps in, and the frog says, I was just at the Pacific Ocean. The frog says, is there as much water there as in this well? He says, much, much more. And when he tries to explain how much water is in the Pacific Ocean, the frog in the well thinks, that's impossible. This is what there is. Because he has no experience of anything beyond. So when we speak about the infinite diversity of the spiritual realm, it's very difficult to understand unless it's revealed to us. And that is why the great scriptures and the great saints have revealed it to us, to show us a map of what there is and what there could be. But then with our shraddha, with our faith, we pursue in order to actually have realization. After the Ganges, the Yamuna and the Saraswati meet in Prayag, then the three rivers become one. And they flow to Varanasi. And that is where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Srila Sanatana Goswami. And he gave such complete instructions. Sitting on the bank of the Ganges for 2 months, 60 days, throughout the day, every day, Lord Chaitanya gave instructions to Sanatana Goswami. Why? Because he, Rupa Goswami, and the Goswamis to actually reveal these teachings to the whole world. And how he elaborated on this concept of unity in diversity. He described the idea of the all-pervading Brahman, the localized Paramatma, and Bhagavan. That one Bhagavan, that one supreme absolute truth in this spiritual world. Lord Chaitanya, he spoke at length about various avatars and various divisions of avatars. There's Amsa avatars, there's Shakyavesh avatars, there's Purusha avatars for the purpose of creation of material existence. There's Guna avatars, there's Manu avatars. And he described in great detail the nature and the function of all of these different avatars. And he describes even in this spiritual world beyond this material existence, there are many Vaikuntha planets. So how is it? It was elaborated even more at the time when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Srirangam, and he was discussing with Venkatabhatta and his two brothers, Prabodhananda Saraswati and Trimala Bhatta. They were devotees of Narayan and Lakshmi. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was telling, you worship Narayan. Why did Lakshmi leave Vaikuntha to go to Vrindavan to enter into the Rasa Leela? And Venkatabhatta said, well, Lakshmi and Narayan are the same person. Narayan and Krishna are the same person. So there's no fault in Lakshmi because Narayan and Krishna are one. And Lord Chaitanya said, yes, that's true, but why Lakshmi was not allowed in? Because she loved with great reverence. Supreme, eternally. And the Gopis, they love without that reverence. They love Krishna just because he's Krishna, not because he's God. And Lord Chaitanya went into great details. He told that beautiful story how Krishna left Rasa Leela during the Govardhan pastimes. And Radharani and Gopis were searching for him. And they saw him. So the Gopis ran to him. And Krishna assumed the form of Narayan with 4 arms. And when they saw Narayan, they understood this is the supreme absolute truth. This is God standing before us, the worshipable Lord of all material and spiritual worlds. They bowed down to him. And Narayan asked Gopis, is there anything I can benedict you with? And they said, only one thing. Have you seen Krishna? Tell us where he went. They simply loved Krishna. They recognized Narayan as the supreme. But they loved Krishna just as their lover. And Narayan with his 4 arms, he said, Krishna went that way. They bowed down with great respect and ran to dance with Krishna. Then Sri Radha came. And she bowed down to Lord Narayan. And Narayan was actually Krishna in the form of Narayan. in the presence of Sri Radha's love, two of his arms just melted away. He tried to keep this disguise, but Sri Radha's love defeated him. He couldn't. And he was just sitting there with his flute. So Lord Chaitanya is telling this story. And after hearing all of this, Venkatabhata, he said, actually, I can understand that you are Krishna, that you are Narayan. So ultimately, I accept whatever you say, and I will worship Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya, what was his final statement? He said, actually, they're one and the same. There's no difference. Narayan and Krishna are one person. But yeyatamam prapadyante tamstataiva bhajamyam. As we approach, the Lord reveals himself accordingly. So Lord Chaitanya goes to great lengths describing various avatars, various incarnations, various manifestations of the one supreme truth in the spiritual world. And how that one supreme truth creates material existence. And how that one supreme truth incarnates in so many forms, with so many names, at so many times, within this creation. The idea of unity of diversity is also the levels of knowledge and realizations that may be given at different times. It's not necessarily that one is right and one is wrong. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, during his Mahaprakash Leela, he fulfilled the innermost desires of each of his devotees. To some of his devotees, he revealed his beautiful form of Krishna. To Kolavecha Sridhar, he became Krishna and Balaram. To Murari Gupta, he became Lord Ramchandra with Sita and Lakshman. And Hanuman and Murari Gupta was looking. And Lord Chaitanya said, Murari, you have forgotten who you are. You are Hanuman. And then Murari Gupta looked down and he saw that he had a tail. He fell unconscious. So all the devotees were celebrating his unity and diversity. And the unity and diversity in the spiritual and material worlds and with the Lord's Shaktis. As the Shakti is the energy of the Lord, the feminine aspect of the Lord. With Krishna, there's Radha. With Lakshmi, there is Narayan. With Ramchandra, there's Sita. And all of these goddesses of fortune, we may call them, they're all the same person. Radha is Sita, Sita is Radha, is Lakshmi. Shiva, it's described in wonderful, wonderful philosophical detail how Shiva and Vishnu are one, but at the same time different. as is Parvati and Lakshmi. What is the oneness? And trying to just superficially say they're all one without understanding how they're all so different. And according to the scriptures and the saints, it's not that they're just temporarily different. They're eternally different and eternally one simultaneously. And this is called achintya, inconceivable. The Lord describes it in the Upanishads. It tells parashya shaktir vivadaiva shruyate, that the Supreme Truth has multifarious energies, limitless energies. Primarily, there's the antaranga shakti, the internal spiritual energy, the bahiranga shakti, the external material energy, and there's the tatastha shakti, the marginal energy. And all of these energies, material energy is sometimes manifested and sometimes unmanifested, but the energy, they're all one energy. But that one energy is manifesting at different times, in different places, in different ways. But they're all simultaneously existing in the one. It's not that they're ever separate from the one. They're forever existing in the one. And therefore that oneness is supreme. But the diversity within that oneness is supreme in the sense that the origin of all diversity is anandamayo bhyashat. Pleasure. The Hladini Shakti is the pleasure potency of the Lord. This beautiful verse that we're speaking from today, Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Hladini Shaktirasmat, that the one supreme truth is one, but that one supreme truth has become two eternally. Now that sounds like a contradiction. How can you become something eternally? Because eternally means no beginning. That's inconceivable. That means the two are ever existing, but the two are one, ever existing. You laugh because you're confused. But why is the one eternally two and the two are eternally one? For pleasure. Anandamayo vyashat. The absolute truth, this is from Vedanta Sutra, the essence, summary of all Vedas, of all knowledge, is always experiencing pleasure. Ananda mayo bhyashat. Full pleasure, complete pleasure. And therefore, is there any question that the search for pleasure is the most powerful force within all of creation? Practically everything we are is seeking pleasure in some way or another. Material existence, there's three modes of nature: goodness, passion, ignorance. Sattvaguna, Rajaguna, Tamaguna. So we're looking for pleasure in different ways according to our conditioning, but we're looking for pleasure. In the mode of ignorance, we're looking for pleasure through intoxication, through trying to prove ourselves superior to other, through violence. The mode of passion, we're trying to find pleasure by fame, by success, by followers, by money, by wealth, by land. In the mode of goodness, we're looking for pleasure in helping others and being good and being honest and being kind. But everyone's looking for pleasure. When a mosquito bites you, it's not a bad person. It just so happens that your blood is the only pleasure he knows. Yes? And ultimately all the wars and all the economic situations of life, everything that we see in the world is just people are looking for pleasure. And we're very afraid. Fear is such a powerful force in creation. Because there's just so many ways that could interfere with our search for pleasure. And we fear that. We fear death. Because the pleasure of living in this body and all the relationships and possessions of this body are going to all end at death. So everyone's seeking pleasure. Everyone in this room. Do you like the air conditioner? Why do you like the air conditioner? Because it gives you pleasure. But a devotee is seeking pleasure in service. It's not that we can just give up the search for pleasure. Even the yogis who are performing severe tapasya, they're not eating and they're not sleeping, and they're living with snakes in a cave. I've seen. Still, they're seeking the pleasure of liberation. They're seeking the pleasure of supernatural powers. And Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. That the soul, the spirit, the living entity that's in the heart of every living being is simultaneously one with God, but yet unique. We're part and parcel of the supreme truth, like a sun ray is to the sun planet. But like the supreme, we're seeking pleasure. So what is real pleasure? What is the highest, most inclusive pleasure? This verse is speaking about the origin of all pleasure. The one supreme becomes two to enjoy pleasure with himself or herself. And that pleasure is prema, or love. The ecstasy of the love that is exchanged by Sri Radha and Krishna. Or in other realms, Lakshmi Narayan. That love is the origin of all pleasure. It's the complete fullness of all pleasure. From the spiritual world. And Janmadya Shayataha, everything emanates from the one supreme, therefore, we're all seeking pleasure. Because we're all emanations of that one supreme. And that one supreme truth comes to this world again and again and again. That's what all the avatars, all the incarnations, all the great spiritual reformers, they come to teach us where the pleasure we're seeking actually is. Is there any greater pleasure in this world than love? Frustrated love could cause deep pain. Fulfilling love can give the greatest happiness. People die for love of their country. People live for the love of their children, the love of their parents, the love of their lover. Books, literatures, poetry, music. So much based on the need to love and be loved. So this one beautiful verse that we're reading is explaining that the one supreme absolute truth is eternally to enjoy love. And it's not that they're simply alone existing, but the eternal spiritual realm and all living entities. It is all the reality of the Lord and the Lord's energy. Maya, or the Bahiranga Shakti of the Lord, we call Mahamaya. Spiritual energy is Yoga Maya and material energy is Mahamaya. And we're taught that because Mahamaya is the Lord's energy, she's our friend. But we're also taught that she's our enemy. So which is it? Is Maya your friend or your enemy? Does anyone want to answer that? Yayatamam papadyante. If we're actually seeing from a spiritual perspective, then Maya, whatever Maya does, is actually helping us with great conviction to take shelter of the Lord and to realize without the love of God, everything is just eventually a disturbance. But when we're not seeking the love of God, then birth after birth after birth, Maya just keeps deluding us. Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. She's simultaneously, inconceivably our best friend and our only enemy. Krishna speaks in Gita, Vidyavanaya Sampane Brahmani Gavihastini Suni Chaiva Swapaki Cha Panditasana Darshana. One who is actually enlightened sees every living being with equal vision. Whether one is of one race or another, one religion or another, one species or another. Because they see the unity in the diversity. There are so many divisions described in the scriptures. There's, among devotees, there's Kanishta Adhikari, there's Madhyam, and there's Uttama. There are different perceptions, different realizations. A Kanishta is one who believes in God, doesn't have very deep realizations, but believes in God and sees God in their own temple, sees God in their own religion, but not much beyond that. A Madhyamadikari is one who sees not only God, but sees every living being's relationship with God. And an Uttamadikari is one who actually appreciates that. A Madhyamadikari discriminates or discerns that this is God. These are the devotees of the Lord who help me to love God. And these are the innocent who I can help. And these are the atheistic or the demoniac who will actually bring me down, who I must avoid. But an Uttamadikari sees everything as every living being as God's child. That's actually the truth. But in order to help people and to protect oneself when one isn't in a very advanced state of consciousness, one must discern. So this idea of unity and diversity, why sometimes we see great souls condemning certain situations. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada would say, that person is a rascal. Yes, it's pretty, there's different definitions of rascal. But he's teaching that there's something wrong there. And we see this person's in Maya. Sometimes we say like that. We condemn people who kill animals to eat them. We condemn people who blaspheme others, who are cruel. We condemn greed. We condemn selfish lust. We condemn envy. We condemn uncontrolled, harmful anger. We condemn arrogance and just false ego. Yes, we condemn all these things. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna condemns laziness on the spiritual path. But unity and diversity, for those who actually have elevated consciousness, when God speaks this way, when great souls speak this way, it's with love. Jagai and Madhai was an example in Lord Chaitanya's beautiful pastimes. Practically everything they did was condemned. But still, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda saw the spiritual potential in them. What does it say? It says, hate the disease, but love the diseased. We can condemn the sin, but we love the sinner. That's Achintya Bheda Bheda. That's inconceivable one indifference. There's oneness and difference in birth and death. It's the same person that's being born that dies. It's one. And actually it's the same elements that you're born into and same elements that you die from, and then you're born into another lifetime in the same elements, but just different varieties and mixtures of those same elements. So there's unity and diversity in birth and death. Practically every level of reality, if we explore deeply, we find unity in diversity. Now, what does Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu come to teach? How to see the spiritual presence of the all-attractive, all-loving God, and have that love of the soul awakened in the presence of this unity and diversity. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would sometimes say, Guru is one. How many gurus are there? But Guru is one. The Adi Guru, the original Guru is God. Krishna speaks Bhagavad Gita. Lord Ramchandra is speaking supreme truth. God is the original Guru. And we find in different revelations of that one supreme word of God, there are different variations that may come through different times in history. Because actually, if you examine different gurus, each guru has their own special uniqueness. Vyasadeva is guru, but his guru is Narada Muni. They're very different. Yes? Vyasadeva's at Badrikashram. He has family. Sukadeva Goswami is his son. And Narada Muni is a brahmachari who's just flying around the universe playing his veena and singing the glories of the Lord. And just recently, Thakur Bhakti Vinod, such a great, empowered, completely liberated guru who has descended from the spiritual world of Goloka, along with his wife Bhagavati, they had 10 children. And he worked for the British government during the British time in India. He was a magistrate. He was very serious level of administration for the government. He was writing books. He was writing beautiful songs. He was traveling and preaching love of God. And his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was a staunch brahmachari and sannyasi. But yet he considered Bhakti Vinod his guru. One is an ascetic monk, and one is working very responsible occupation and wife and children. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was such a great scholar. He had an infallible memory. He was so learned. And who did he accept as his guru? Gaur Kishordas Babaji Maharaj, who was he would sometimes live in latrines because he didn't want to be disturbed by materialistic people. But because he was such an enlightened person, materialistic people were always asking him for blessings. And all their blessings were always, for money, for property, for fame, for all these different things. So he didn't want to be bothered with it. So he would live for some time where people would go to respond to nature's calls. He would live in a toilet room. And in Bengal, the public toilet rooms, 100 years ago, before there was no flushing devices, there was no sewage systems. It's just a hole in the ground, and it just sits there until somebody comes with a shovel. He would do his bhajan in a toilet. Because he didn't want to deal with materialistic people. And yet he's guru. And yet his disciple is traveling to all parts of India and sending people all over the world to help people to chant the names of God and learn how to love God. Is that unity and diversity? They both had the highest respect for each other, but they were so different. It's not that one was saying, well, you're in Maya because you're just sitting in a toilet, and you're in Maya because you're mixing with people who are more polluted than toilets. And they're teaching the same message, but they're teaching it in different ways too. Gaur Das Babaji told Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, if you go to Calcutta, you go to hell. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati went to Calcutta. And Gaur Das Babaji was so happy he went. He went to hell. Not that he was going to be in hell, but he was going to hell to save the people in hell. So they were very different. They dressed different. And we find, so many different gurus have different uniqueness. In fact, everyone is unique. Srila Prabhupada would say, my only qualification is I'm simply repeating what my Guru Maharaj has taught me. But yet Srila Prabhupada did so many things because the spirit of his Guru's love, the spirit of his Guru's compassion, the knowledge of God and God's love is eternal. But still within that, how can you compromise and at the same time adjust? That seems like a contradiction. Speaking the same truth, the same siddhanta, but at the same time according to time, place, and circumstance, adjusting in such a way that Krishna is most pleased and the mission is most fulfilled. And another element of unity and diversity is the very essence of Lord Chaitanya's spiritual mood of union in separation. How to feel the presence of God in the deepest way while in separation from the Lord. When we read about Sri Radha and Gopis in the spiritual world, and we read Srimad Bhagavatam, we're talking about the highest ecstasy. And in the highest ecstasy, Sri Radharani and Gopis are crying in separation from Krishna. Uddhava was with Krishna in unity. He's sent to give a message to the gopis, and they're crying in separation. They're burning in separation. And yet, Uddhava is witnessing that they're feeling Krishna's presence more than anyone could ever feel it. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, at the house of Srivas, he was dancing in ecstasy with his devotees. But at the Gambhira, he was feeling Sri Radha's moods of separation from Krishna. And the Gambhira, he would just be crying out, "Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna?" Materialistic conceptions, very difficult to grasp. How could suffering be a higher pleasure than any other pleasure? Would anyone like to? You don't have to answer, but you can just meditate on that. If you don't understand the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, if somebody just gives you the Antya Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Lord Chaitanya is crying in separation from Krishna, you would think, God, this is terrible. Somebody help this man. But yet when we read it, we're thinking, oh, I just want to be like this. Union in separation. And when we read that beautiful Jaya Nilo Prema Dana, the song by Thakur Narottam Das Thakur, he's crying in separation from other devotees who have left this world. And he's saying, I'm beating my head against a rock in the anguish of separation from these beloved devotees. Now, does anyone want to be like that? Devotees, that's their goal in life. To have such love that we're beating our head against the rock, not literally, but in spirit, because we just love that devotee so much. We're feeling Krishna's presence so much in that devotee. And in the separation, we're feeling their presence in such a profound way. One time, Advaitacharya touched Lord Chaitanya's feet when he was... And Lord Chaitanya he didn't like people touching his feet. He ran and he jumped in the Ganges and went underwater. And Nityananda Prabhu and Haridas Thakur, they saw him and he was underwater. The Ganges was flowing so strong. They somehow or other jumped in and they grabbed him and they pulled him to the shore. And they said, "Why did you do that, my Lord?" And Lord Chaitanya said, "Why did you save me? Don't you understand? I have no love for Krishna. If I had even one drop of love of Krishna, I would have died because I couldn't withstand being without him. The fact that I'm still living means I have no love." Now, are we dedicating our whole lives to become like that? He's the Acharya. He's God himself. in the mood of the highest devotee. Union and separation. And when we apply these principles to our life today, we feel the presence and the love of someone even after they're gone. When a loved one dies, we understand that the soul is still living. And the presence of the soul in my love and their love is still alive. And that is a reality. Devotees, we want to be with devotees who awaken our love for Krishna. And for people who are very much living under the illusions of material conception, we feel we love them with compassion. Even if we may, for their sake and others, we may condemn them, but it's with love. It's not with hate. It's not just with vengefulness or envy. A liberated soul is defined as everyone's well-wisher. That means we could be a well-wisher even if we totally disagree. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came in this age of Kali, where there's so much division and so much quarrel and so much fear and so much envy and so much hatred and so much arrogance, even in the name of God. He's come with this teaching of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva. How to see everything and experience life without compromising our moral, ethical, spiritual principles, but yet living and seeking the unity and appreciating the eternal unity that is there within all of us. When Srila Prabhupada said you could show your love for me by how you cooperate with one another. How to cooperate when we're all different. People of different nations, with different conditionings, with different experiences throughout life. How to even disagree with each other with a sense of love and unity. That's the challenge. And that's what it actually means to be Krishna conscious. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was in Varanasi, he met with Prakashananda and Mayavadis. Now these Mayavadis, they were blaspheming him. They were criticizing his philosophy. And yet, when he was invited to a place they would be, he came. And it's not that he compromised. He didn't philosophically compromise. He didn't morally compromise. But he loved them. He loved that they were children of Krishna. And even though he stood so strong with the philosophy that he taught, still, he did it with such compassion. When he came into the room, all these very, very learned sannyasis were sitting on a raised platform. And Lord Chaitanya sat at the place where everybody washed their feet when they first came in. You're supposed to wash your feet and then go up and sit with everyone else. But he sat where they were washing their feet. And he understood. He didn't compromise in the difference, but he saw unity within that difference. He knew that they loved the all-pervading light of Brahman. So he started radiating from his body the all-pervading light of Brahman. So they were attracted. It's really, he touched their hearts with this Brahman effulgence. And they said, Swamiji, why are you sitting in such a dirty place? You should sit with us. He said, no, you are also learned. I'm a sentimentalist. I just chant, I'm not qualified to sit with you. And Prakashananda, the leader, came down and took him by the hand and said, please sit with us. And then they challenged him, why are you out there with all these sentimental people just chanting and dancing? Why aren't you studying Vedanta with us? And Lord Chaitanya, he could have just immediately blasted them. But he said, actually, my guru told me that I'm a fool, that I'm not qualified to study Vedanta. So I should just chant the holy names of the Lord. And just by chanting the holy names of the Lord, Krishna will give his love to me. And by his humility, by his respect for them, they opened their hearts, and then they got in a philosophical dialogue. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually completely transformed them into understanding that prema bhakti is the highest form of mukti, or liberation. And they all became great devotees of the Lord. And they all started chanting together. It was a long discussion. But how is it Lord Chaitanya transformed them? Unity and diversity. There was a very serious disagreement, but there was no compromise on Lord Chaitanya's compassion and kindness and concern for them as Krishna's children. And the same principle with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was very much monistic in his way of thinking. And we know the story. Lord Chaitanya came to Puri, and when he first saw Lord Jagannath on his arrival, he saw Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya entered into a state of ecstatic love and fell unconscious. There was practically no symptoms of life. And the guards of the temple just thought he was some sort of a menace. So they were about to just throw him out of the temple. But Sarvabhauma was there. And he said, no, take him to my house. He's just a very 24-year-old sannyasi. Take him to my house. And Lord Chaitanya didn't move. It was until the devotees came later on and they chanted. And then he came to consciousness. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, very learned scholar. He was like a guru to the king. Greatest pundits in India were coming to learn from him. He was very cultured, very refined, very high moral principles. But his brother-in-law, Gopinath Acharya, he was sitting with his Sarvabhauma, and Sarvabhauma said, what type of sannyasi is he? He said, he was from the Bharati Sampradaya. Sarvabhauma said, I can elevate him to the Saraswat Sampradaya. Oh, Gopinath Acharya couldn't tolerate this. You are going to elevate Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Because brother-in-laws sometimes have their ways of talking with each other. He said, you are in illusion. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the absolute truth. He's Krishna himself who has descended into this world. And you think you're going to elevate him just with some technicality? Sarvabhauma's a great scholar. He said, where in the scriptures does it say Lord Chaitanya is God? In Kali Yuga, there's no such incarnation. And Gopinath Acharya, they started debating on the basis of scripture. And then Gopinath Acharya said, even though the supreme truth, Krishna, is standing right in front of you, you cannot understand it because your heart is as dry as a dry rice cake. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, we're just having a friendly debate. Why are you insulting me this way? And Gopinath Acharya was very upset. And he went back to Lord Chaitanya and told him, and Lord Chaitanya was upset with Gopinath Acharya. He wasn't upset with Sarvabhauma. He said, why are you speaking like this about him? He was kind to me. He's like a father. When I was in need, he was helping me. Why are you criticizing him like this? And then Sarvabhauma said, he told Lord Chaitanya, I want to teach you. And Lord Chaitanya said, yes, you teach me. They sat in Jagannath's temple, and Lord Chaitanya listened to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya for 7 days and didn't agree with anything he was saying. But still he sat and listened. 7 days, very respectfully. It wasn't like he was cringing and saying, oh. This man is trying to help me. Sarvabhauma said, you're only 24 years old. You're a sannyasi. Very difficult to be a sannyasi at such a young age, unless you really understand what is Maya and what is Brahman. So let me teach you Vedanta to give you strength. So Lord Chaitanya was listening. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, after 7 days, he said, you are respectfully listening to everything I say for all these days, but you didn't ask any questions yet. Do you understand? I don't understand if you understand or don't understand. Lord Chaitanya didn't say anything until he was asked. Then Lord Chaitanya said, I understand Vedanta very clearly. It's like the sun without any clouds in the sky. But your interpretations are like really dark clouds. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, well, you're talking to me. You're a little boy and I'm an elderly pundit. He said, if you have a better idea, you tell me. No, because he was a cultured man. Lord Chaitanya listened to him for 7 days, so now he had to listen to Lord Chaitanya. And when he heard Lord Chaitanya's explanations, his heart was completely transformed. He asked a few questions, Lord Chaitanya answered it, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya surrendered his life, understanding that Lord Chaitanya is actually Krishna himself. But unity and diversity. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he may not have agreed, but even with uncompromising disagreement, he's still the unity of the culture of compassion that was within his heart. He saw the potential for him to love Krishna. And our own guru, when Srila Prabhupada came to the West, he was disagreeing with everything he was seeing. People were coming to the original devotees. Srila Prabhupada, when he was asked by a reporter later, Prabhupada said he came to make hippies happies. And then the person said, "What is your understanding? What is a hippie?" And Srila Prabhupada said, "You know better than me." And he said something extraordinary. With so many disagreements, but he was their friend. He was everyone's friend. He was father. He was mother. He was everyone. He was cooking for them. He was patiently hearing their whatever thoughts. Everybody thinks that they're enlightened. Everybody thinks that they're better than everybody else. That's the nature of this world. But Srila Prabhupada, uncompromising, but yet with such respect and honor and compassion for the soul and others. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was in Jarikanta forest, he was just with one assistant, Balabhadra Bhattacharya. They were traveling to Vrindavan. And now there's a state called Jarikanta. But in those days, it was a vast forest. It was in Bengal, parts of it was in Orissa, parts of it Bihar. Huge forest. And there were Bengali tigers, wild herds of elephants, very dangerous. A lot of snakes, cobras, vipers, leopards. And Lord Chaitanya's dancing and singing, just so eager to go to Vrindavan. And there was a huge, dangerous tiger laying in the path. And Balabhadra Bhattacharya obviously was thinking, "Please, my Lord, let's quietly go by him." Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went right up to the tiger. He put his lotus foot on the tiger's head. And he kicked the tiger's head very, very nicely, very, very lovingly. And the tiger woke up and Lord Chaitanya said, "Chant the names of Hari." Don't try to imitate Lord Chaitanya. You will be eaten alive. But Lord Chaitanya is showing his standard of love, unity and diversity. The diversity is, there's a human body and there's a tiger body. That's diversity. There's the human psychology and the tiger psychology. Tiger psychology is to eat you. The tiger, he was feeling Lord Chaitanya's compassion so deep in his heart that just to please Lord Chaitanya, he began to chant Krishna's names and raised his paws in the air and was dancing. And tears were pouring from his eyes, and all his hairs were standing on end in ecstatic love of God. And he actually attained perfection. And Lord Chaitanya was telling all the animals to chant the names of Hari. And he was, by the power of his love, his love reached their hearts in such a way that they wanted to please him. And they started chanting, and they instantly attained life's perfection. Now, diversity. There were some deers. Lord Chaitanya told the deers to chant. And there were so many tigers chanting. Now, deers and tigers, that's for those of you who have ever lived in the forest. For a tiger, a deer is like a laddu for you. I mean, there's so many things that tigers could eat, but deers taste so good. A deer is very dear to a tiger. Not out of love, but out of taste. They're very nutritious and very delicious. And therefore, the tigers live in lust to eat deers, and deers live in total fear of the tiger. But Lord Chaitanya wanted to make a statement of how unity and diversity works in this world. Take it very seriously. This message is for you and me. It's not just something in the scriptures. The deers and the tigers, by the power of Lord Chaitanya, he wanted them to love each other as brothers and sisters. And each deer came to embrace the tiger. Now that's pretty risk. But they had no fear. When you love God, you become fearless because you realize I'm an eternal soul and Krishna will always protect me. Bhaktivinoda Thakur prayed, Maro birako bijo icha toha. My dear Lord, if you want, you can kill me, or if you want, you can protect me. You can do anything you like with me because I'm your servant. When we actually take shelter of the Lord, we're fearless. It doesn't mean that materially nothing destructive will happen to me. It means it really doesn't. Krishna, I'm yours. In life or death, I'm yours. That's fearless. Because however much you protect yourself, still you have to grow old, get diseased, and die. So how to be fearless? When we take shelter of the Lord reveals our eternal identity and relationship. Spiritual love is the only level where there's complete eternal fearlessness. So the deer had tasted that love, and so did the tiger. They embraced each other as brothers. They embraced each other as sisters. They were crying in love and affection for each other as Vaishnavas. And another inconceivable thing that we shouldn't imitate. Each tiger and deer started kissing each other. It wasn't like romantic. It's just, the way they expressed their love for each other. And Lord Chaitanya was seeing this. They weren't seeing your deer, they knew you're tiger, you're deer, but we're devotees. And whatever our nature is and whatever everything else is, this is what unifies us, that we're devotees. And therefore there was respect. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo. That idea of respecting and honoring and loving each other as Vaishnavas, it's in the context of inevitable so many differences. And when Lord Chaitanya saw the tigers and deers embracing each other and dancing each other and loving each other, it brought him great happiness. And he chanted a beautiful verse, remembering Vrindavan. This beautiful verse describes in Vrindavan, because of the presence of Krishna, because everyone's united love for Krishna, even those animals and those who are naturally inimical toward each other, they were above all of that. They were united in bhakti. Harinam Sankirtan is to lift us to this level. Sankirtan, together we're in God's names, when we're sincere, when our hearts are becoming purified, when love of God, anandam buddhivardhanam, when the happiness of love of God begins to awaken in our hearts, and we understand Lord Chaitanya's beautiful gift of achintya beda 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 tattva, to recognize unity in diversity, simultaneous one and difference. Here in the temple room today, I'm seeing doctors, specialists in various, integral medicine and pediatrics and orthopedics, psychiatrists, psychologists, so many different types of doctors. I'm seeing people in business, international business, corporations. I'm seeing accountants. I'm seeing teachers. I'm seeing mothers. I'm seeing brahmacharis. Some very simple. Some are pujaris. Seeing people from different nationalities. I'm seeing people from nationalities where the governments are actually at war with each other. I'm seeing people of different castes where, according to their birth, there's so much animosity and fear throughout the world and country. I'm seeing people from various religions. I'm seeing people with very different world views because of their experiences in life and the setting in which they were raised. But yet everybody's attentively either sleeping or hearing. We're laughing together, or we're sleeping together. Because we're all united in our interest to love Krishna, to love God, to hear about God. And today is Gaur Purnima, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance day. And we've come to hear about the beautiful gift that Lord Chaitanya has given. And this unity and diversity was so strongly proclaimed by him. At that time, over 500 years ago, the caste system was very strong in India. And yet Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came in reciprocation from the prayers of compassion for all living beings by his devotees. And two of the devotees who were very united in hearts and souls with each other were Advaitacharya and Haridas Thakur. Advaitacharya was the leader of the whole Brahmin community of Shantipur. Advaitacharya had 6 children. His wife, Sita Thakurani. He was living in a nice home. And he was given the highest honor and respect within society, the leader of the Brahmin community. And Haridas Thakur was born of an untouchable family from another religion. Everywhere he went, he was disgraced, he was persecuted, he was insulted. But yet, Advaitacharya saw his devotion. And Advaitacharya worshipped the devotion in Haridas, and Haridas worshipped the devotion in Advaita. And they became the most close, loving associates. And Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they were also, from very, very highly learned Brahmin families. Whenever they came to Puri, where did they stay? They stayed with Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur wasn't even allowed in the temple of Jagannath. And he didn't even try, because he felt he was not deserving. But yet the greatest saints and acharyas were seeking out his association. No matter how people persecuted Haridas, no matter how much they hated him, he never compromised his own philosophy. He never compromised his own spiritual principles. But at the same time, he was always a forgiving, loving well-wisher to every living being. And it was in this spirit that he was constantly chanting the holy names. King Prataparudra. Because he was a king, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considered, he wanted, for various reasons, but it was a social custom that renunciates were not supposed to be with highly materialistic kings. So even though King Prataparudra wanted to meet Lord Chaitanya, for some time Lord Chaitanya was rejecting him externally. But in his heart, he was completely accepting him. This is unity and diversity. How do you simultaneously totally reject and totally accept the same person at the same moment. Lord Chaitanya was accepting him completely internally for his devotion, but rejecting him for external formalities. That's unity and diversity too. Trying to be in a traditional environment in the face of a world of technology. Yes, King Prataparudra, Ramananda Rai and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and even Nityananda Prabhu, they were trying so much to get an audience of Lord Chaitanya with the king. And Lord Chaitanya, he said, if you even ask me again, I will leave this place. But in his heart, he was completely accepting the king. He revealed to the king what practically no one else could understand. When King Prataparudra was on that rooftop during the Ratha Yatra, he was seeing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was dancing in all 7 Ratha Yatra parties, 7 different kirtan parties. He was simultaneously in all of them, and everyone in each party was thinking Lord Chaitanya is only with me, and King Prataparudra could see that he's actually with everybody. And Ramananda Rai and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the Lord is revealing his most intimate secrets only to the most precious, beloved devotees could ever see this. And yet he was being rejected. Another beautiful example of unity and diversity. Pundarik Vidyanidhi, when he came to Navadvip, early morning, before anybody else was there, he would go to the Ganges, Ganga, and he would bow down to Ganga and just sprinkle water on his head. He couldn't tolerate seeing people playing in the Ganga. He couldn't tolerate people putting their bodies in the Ganga and washing clothes in the Ganga and all these things. He had such love for Mother Ganga. And yet Nimai, he was playing. He was spraying the water from his mouth on people. And even after Lord Chaitanya started the Sankirtan movement, he was playing in the Ganga with his devotees. And yet Pundarik Vidyanidhi was called upon the Lord as his father. So they're very different moods of devotion, but they had total love and respect for each other. And at Srivas Thakur's house, little Narayani was just 4 years old. She really never went to school. She was just a little 4-year-old girl. She was just standing there in the house, and Lord Chaitanya turned to her and said, Narayani, chant Krishna's name and feel ecstatic love. And just by his merciful glance, she chanted Krishna's name, and tears poured from her eyes. And she immediately attained the ultimate perfection of love of God. She fell to the ground in ecstasy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was showing us in his pastimes how there was no discrimination of who was fit or who was unfit to love Krishna, to serve Krishna. Whoever accepted his mercy, he accepted completely. When he started the Sankirtan movement in Navadvip, at first he was very much criticized. Then many people came. And for those who continued to criticize, Lord Chaitanya had explained, he took sannyas just so that they would listen to him. Should we begin the class now? But this achintya bheda bheda tattva is very, very urgent need for us to really deeply try to appreciate and understand and apply in our lives. In a world where there's so much division. You see these divisions, it was the first lesson Srila Prabhupada received from his Guru Maharaj. In 1922 in Calcutta, Srila Prabhupada was brought by his friend Naranja Malak to meet a sadhu at Old Tadangi Junction Road. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada was giving a lecture on the rooftop. And Abhay, Srila Prabhupada's name at the time, went up there with his friend. There was a group of people. They bowed down. And immediately, Srila Saraswati Thakur said, "You are an intelligent young man. You should take the message of Lord Chaitanya and teach the whole world in the English language." Abhay had just been married. He just had his first child. He was working in a company. He was just coming because his friend forced him to come. And now he's getting a lifelong instruction. And Prabhupada was a follower of Gandhi at the time. Mahatma Gandhi, he was wearing khadi. And in those days, to be a follower of Gandhi, you had to be willing to make sacrifices. There was persecution, you would lose rights. Srila Prabhupada wouldn't accept his college graduation certificate because it was what Gandhi said. So Srila Prabhupada said to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he said, "Who will listen to us? We are under British control. We're a subjugated nation. First, let us get independence. Then we'll have credibility. People will listen to our message." And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said in reply, he said, there's always differences of governments and there's always differences of, which party is in charge and which party is in control and which party is subjugated. These things are always here in the material world. But there's one truth. And that truth is, we're not these bodies. We're the eternal soul. And we all have the capacity to love Krishna and know Krishna. And there's no possibility of any real sustainable unity unless we see all the diversity in this world through that knowledge and realization. The greatest problem is a lack of Krishna consciousness, and the solution is Krishna consciousness. And he wasn't talking about a sectarian idea. He was taking about the universal principle of being recognizing I'm an eternal servant of the Supreme. And Srila Prabhupada was convinced. We want unity, but the beauty of unity in the spiritual world and in the material world also is in harmonizing that unity with diversity. Just like the altar today. So many different colors. Blue colors, white flowers. The gold leaf on the altar. All the different varieties are all unified in their being offered for the pleasure of God. And all the devotees who have assembled here today for Gaur Purnima, we have all assembled with a unified purpose. And the differences that we all share only enhance the beauty of the offering. In Goloka Vrindavan, Sri Radharani expands herself to be her own rival. Chandravali, she's Radharani's rival. She's trying to take Krishna away from Radha. And yet, Chandravali is an expansion of Radha. So why? Because that diversity increases the ecstasy of the happiness for both Krishna and Radha and Chandravali. So they're unified. What will give Krishna the greatest happiness? And Krishna wants only the greatest happiness for all the devotees. So what does it actually mean to be a servant of a servant, to be a servant of the Lord and the servant of the devotees? It means we are united for the higher conception of what will please Srila Prabhupada, what will please our gurus, and what will please Krishna. And when we're united in this way, when we really share this spirit, then the diversities, instead of dividing us, they actually unite us. So this is my humble request to all devotees. Let us appreciate and empower each other with all of our differences. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Just to end your clapping, I will tell one story. seeing the quarrel, the hypocrisy, and the attachments to material distractions and all the inevitable suffering that it brings. Advaitacharya, Srivas Thakur, Haridas Thakur, Murari Gupta, all these devotees, they felt such compassion for all the people of this world. They were crying for Krishna to appear. And Advaitacharya, he was so well situated, beautiful family, beautiful home, beautiful friends, fame, popularity. But yet, for the people suffering in this world, he was fasting. He was crying tears, begging Krishna to appear in this world, to bring down the glories of Goloka Vrindavan in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy. Srivas Thakur, he was having kirtan constantly with his brothers. Srivas, Sripati, Srinidhi, Sriram, praying to the Lord to come to this world. And Haridas Thakur was in his cave chanting 300,000 names of Krishna every day minimum, crying for the Lord to come. They were all liberated souls. They all had ecstatic love for Krishna. There was nothing deficient in their fullness in prema bhakti. But paradukkha dukhi, it's the nature of love to feel compassion. They may have condemned many of the things people were doing, but they were willing to put down their lives to help them to love God. And Lord Chaitanya, Krishna himself, in the mood of Sri Radha, once in a day of Brahma, descends and first sent loving associates from the spiritual world. Sent Balaram to be born as Nityananda Prabhu in Ekachakra, all to prepare for the Lord's appearance. Sent Upendra Mishra, who's Parjanya, Krishna's grandfather in Goloka. And his son, Nanda Maharaj, came as Jagannath Mishra, and Sachi Mata, she is Yashoda Mai in Goloka. Pundarik Vidyanidhi in Chattagram is Sri Radharani's father, Vrishabhanu Maharaj. He sent the great Kalpa Vriksha tree of Braj Bhumi, Madhavendra Puri. All these great devotees were being born in various places. And Chaitanya Charitamrita and our acharyas describe they were born in so many different places because wherever a devotee who loves the Lord comes, everybody is benefited. So Lord Chaitanya was sending his associates to be born in so many different places. And they all gathered in Navadvip on the bank of the Ganges. And at the time of the Falguni Purnima, the full moon, there was an eclipse. And Navadvip is described, it was so prosperous. It had such a vibrant, opulent population. The opulence wasn't so much in just material money and wealth, but the opulence was in education. People lived very comfortably in Navadvip. And it was a high seat of learning for all of India. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of teachers and hundreds and thousands of students, and everyone were just learning, learning, learning. But practically, except for a few devotees, there was no understanding of what is bhakti, what is love of God, what is kirtan, which is the recommended process in this age for spiritual enlightenment, according to the Vedas. But on an eclipse, whether it's due to custom or superstition, everyone, whoever they are, they all go to the Ganges and chant the names of Hari. So the names of Hari were resounding in all directions. And the devotees, it's the only time they ever heard anybody chanting in kirtan. They were thinking, let this eclipse just last for eternity. But before Lord Chaitanya came to this world, first he descended as the holy name and had everyone in all directions in Navadvip chanting. Golokera Premadana Harinam Sankirtana. This Harinam Sankirtan, it's not just a process that helps us become liberated in this world. Golokera Premadana Harinam Sankirtan. This kirtan is an eternal pastime in the spiritual world. It's Prem Sankirtan, the ecstatic chanting of love of God. And before Lord Chaitanya personally descended, he sent his associates, and then the Harinam Sankirtan of Goloka descended. And as everyone was singing, and under that neem tree, Lord Chaitanya appeared. He was so beautiful. He had today's verse, Radha Bhavaduti Subalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam. He's Krishna with the Mahabhav, the love of Sri Radha in his heart. And because of that love of Sri Radha, his complexion was Radha's complexion. Beautiful gold. In Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, in one place, it describes like the beautiful rising sun is a golden color. Or sometimes the beautiful rising moon is a golden color. That was the closest comparison that could be made to the resplendent golden complexion of this little baby. And when Sachi Devi, his mother, and Jagannath Mishra, his father, when they looked at him, their hearts were flooding over with love, motherly love and fatherly love. But not just the type of the extent of motherly and fatherly love in this world is enormous. But when your child is Krishna, the all-attractive, the limitless love of the soul was pouring from their hearts. They just the touch of Nimai here, that little baby, thrill them in ecstatic love, the sight of him. And little Nimai, his glance, his smile, would awaken the deepest prema from their hearts. And as he was a little baby, sometimes he would cry. And Sachimat and the other ladies of the family, they would try to pacify him. They would give him something, they would give him something else. But nothing could stop him from crying. And finally, they just said, "Hari, Hari." And not only did he stop crying, but he smiled. He glanced at everyone and smiled upon them. How many of you have an experience of your hearts really being touched when a little child smiles at you? If any of the men want to admit it, please raise your arms and say Hari Bol if you have experience. But smiling is a universal exchange. It could really uplift a person's heart when somebody that you care about smiles, a genuine smile. What is the origin of that? Krishna smiling upon our souls. Krishna's all attractive. And in a supreme all attractive form and fullness, he was that little baby. And when everybody gathered, when all the ladies gathered around and chanted for him, he glanced upon them and smiled. That's the difference. When they chanted, Lord Chaitanya stopped crying. When I chant, people cry. And so Lord Chaitanya, every time he would cry, they would be so ecstatic because they knew the secret. And soon, every morning, all the ladies of the neighbors and the family, they would just gather around Nimai and clap their hands and sing the holy names. So he came to the world while everyone was chanting. And from his infancy, from the first day he was here, he was inducing everyone around to chant the names of the Lord. Sachimata's father, Nilambar Chakravarti, he was a very great astrologer. And while he was doing his chart at the time of Lord Chaitanya, just after his birth, he said, there is no more perfect birth. It's even beyond creation, the auspiciousness of this birth. He named him Vishwambar because he would nourish the whole universe. And while this was happening, one Brahmin happened to walk in, and he began to calculate. He described this child. He's Lord Narayan. He's going to induce the whole world to be flooded with love of God. When he spoke all these beautiful things, Jagannath Mishra really had no possessions to give him. So he fell at the Brahman's feet and cried. And the Brahman fell at Jagannath Mishra's feet and cried. And because the child was the ladies of the neighborhood, they witnessed that Sachimata had 8 daughters, and each of those 8 daughters died soon after their birth. And then they had one son, Vishwarup, who was actually none different than Nityananda Prabhu. And because this was going to be Sachimata and Jagannath Mishra's last child, to protect him, they named him Nimai. He was born under a neem tree, and the neem tree is very well known for removing inauspiciousness. So this Brahmin said his secondary name will be Nimai, and his first name will be Vishwambara. After some time, he began to crawl. Then he began to walk. And I'm going to tell just one little story. One day, Nimai was just roaming around in Navadvip. It was very crowded with so many people. And his mother put some nice bangles and earrings on him, nice jewels. And two thieves, they saw this and they decided, this is really easy. Let us pick him up, take him back to our house, and we'll steal all this jewelry. So to be not detected by all the people roaming around in all directions, they said, "Oh, our son, we found you finally, let us take you home." And they picked him up and put him on shoulders, and they started taking him with such evil purpose. And Nimai was just riding on their shoulders, and just to pacify him so he wouldn't cry, they were every now and then giving him pieces of sandesh, and he was eating that. He was happy. And meanwhile, Nimai's family, they couldn't find him anywhere. They were looking, they were searching. They were crying, "Where is Nimai? Has anybody seen Vishwambara? He's gone, he's gone." And Jagannath Mishra was just sitting with his head in his hands because there was just nowhere else to look for him. And the thieves, by Nimai's own wish, they came all the way back to Jagannath Mishra's house. And when they arrived, they thought this was their house. They said, "Oh, child, now you're home, get down." And they were going to steal everything from him. And as soon as they put him down, Nimai jumped in Jagannath Mishra's arms. And everybody was cheering. Everybody around, the whole family. Nimai has returned. And the thieves looked around. "Where are we? This is not our house. This is where we started. How did this happen?" So they were so afraid they ran away. And after they wanted to reward whoever found Nimai and brought him home. And somebody said, I saw two men, and they were carrying him. And they asked, where are they? We want to give them a reward. We want to make a nice turban and place it around their head. And they asked Nimai, what happened? And Nimai said, I got lost. And these two really nice men, they came and picked me up and brought me home. And Vrindavan Das Thakur, telling the story, explains what is the supreme good fortune of those two thieves. They gave so much happiness to Nimai. Nimai took their bad quality and transformed them into great benediction. When he was even younger, crawling, before he was even walking, there was a big snake that came into the courtyard of his home. And Nimai grabbed the snake with his little hand. And the snake coiled up, and Nimai laid on top of the coils, smiling. And when the family members saw him laying on the coils of a huge serpent, they were frantic with anxiety. Because, if you wake up that serpent, he could swallow Nimai, he could bite Nimai, he could strangle Nimai. So nobody could approach, but they were crying out for the mercy of Garuda. Because in those days it was a tradition in Bengal that to protect one from snakes, you call out the name of Garuda. So they were crawling out, Garuda, Garuda. And Vrindavan Das Thakur reveals that was actually Anantashesha, Lord Balaram in a snake form, who actually came to be a part of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes and give him a comfortable place to lay down. But when the serpent saw everybody in so much anxiety, crying out Garuda's name in total torment of what could happen to our little boy, the snake uncoiled and slithered away, and Nimai was chasing after, trying to grab him. But in the meanwhile, the family picked up Nimai and saved him. And meanwhile, every time they put him down, Nimai would go chasing for the snake again. And Vrindavan Das Thakur describes anyone who hears this story with faith will never again be bitten by the snake of material distraction and suffering. And one day, a very effulgent, pure-hearted pilgrim came to the house of Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi. And he was very special. He was a devotee of Bal Gopal. Around his neck, he had a deity of Bal Gopal, baby Krishna, and also had a Shalagram Shila. And he was constantly chanting a 6-syllable mantra for Gopal. And he wandered to holy places. And somehow or other, because of his deep, deep love and devotion, the Lord in his heart brought him to Jagannath Mishra's house. When he came to the door, Jagannath Mishra, just seeing this person, he was so pious, he was so full of devotion. He welcomed him in the house, he gave him a sitting place. He said, "Please tell me, where is your residence?" And the pilgrim replied, "Actually, I do not have a home. I'm just a wandering mendicant. I go wherever my restless mind takes me." And Jagannath Mishra, he said, "You are a pure soul. You travel from place to place and go from house to house only to purify and give Krishna's blessings to all of us. Let us feed you." The pilgrim said, "Whatever you like." And because he always liked to cook for his Gopal, Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi, they arranged very nice bhoga, very nice food, and cleaned the kitchen, and said you could cook yourself and offer it. Because that was his standard. He cooked himself, whatever he offered to the deities and ate. So he made a very nice offering. And then he sat down, put his deity, and chanted his mantra, calling Gopal to accept the food. Suddenly he looked up. Nimai. He picked up a handful of rice and was eating it. Right on the little altar that was made. And Nimai glanced at the pilgrim and smiled. He was shocked. He cried out, "Hi, hi! This naughty little child has spoiled my offering. I'm offering it to Krishna and he came and ate it himself. Now the offering is spoiled." When he said that, Jagannath Mishra chased after Nimai, and Nimai ran away. And the pilgrim Brahmin, he clasped Jagannath Mishra's hands and said, "This is just a little child. He doesn't know what's right and what's wrong. You cannot punish him." Jagannath Mishra said, "If I don't teach him, how will he ever learn?" He said, No. Just give me some fruits and roots. That's all I need. I live in the forest almost all the time. That's all I eat. I don't have to have rice and cooked food." Jagannath Mishra and all of the other family members, they begged the pilgrim, "Please cook again. Please cook again." He said, No need. I already did it. It is not my destiny to eat cooked food today. Only if Krishna sanctions, and he is not sanctioned today. They said, "No, that's you cook again." And so to please the family, they brought new food, they cleaned the kitchen. And Jagannath Mishra and the family, they wanted to protect him from Nimai. So they brought Nimai to a neighbor's house. And the ladies were guarding him and playing with him. So he cooked, and as he was making his offering, Nimai was with all the ladies, and they were just passing him from one lap to another and joking with him, and they would chant, and he would dance on their laps. It was so nice, and everybody he touched, they didn't want to ever let him go. One lady said, "Nimai, why you are so restless? You don't even know who this person is, and you're eating his food? And Nimai said, he is a Brahmin, and I'm a cowherd boy. And cowherd boys like to eat the food of Brahmins. He was telling the truth, but they did not understand. So as the pilgrim Brahma was making the offering, Nimai being passed away around from one lap to another lap, he bewildered everyone so much with his smiles and his joking words and his loving glances that nobody noticed that he escaped. And as the Brahman chanted his 6-syllable Gopal mantra, he looked up, and standing right in front of him was the little beautiful child, Nimai, eating the rice, glancing upon him and smiling. He cried out, "Hi, hi!" That means, alas, alas. This child again spoiled my offering. Jagannath Mishra now picked up a stick, and Nimai ran away. And everyone somehow or other stopped Jagannath Mishra trying to pacify him, and he was just sitting like with his hands. He felt like he failed. A special guest, a sadhu, came to his home, and he couldn't serve him properly. So they were begging him, "Please cook again. We've already cleaned the kitchen. We've already put new food there." And he said, "It is not my destiny to eat today. Just bring me some fruits and roots." And in this way, the whole house was in sorrow. And then Nimai's elder brother, Vishwarup, he walked up to this pilgrim and seeing the beauty of Vishwarup, he was astonished. The pilgrim said, "Whose son is this?" And the family said, "This is the son of Sachi Devi and Jagannath Mishra." He said, "I have never seen such a noble, such a effulgent, such a divine person." And Vishwarup bowed down to him and said, "We are so fortunate that you have come to bless our family. But we are so unfortunate that you didn't eat any rice today. Please cook again." He said, "It's too late. It's the middle of the night. And it is not Krishna's will for me to eat cooked food today. Just bring me some fruits and roots." And Vishwarup, he said that everything is so auspicious that you've come, but if you don't eat, everything is so inauspicious, and myself and all of my family are so sad if you don't eat. It's not too late. Please cook again. So he said, "All right." And everybody cheered. And they brought Nimai into a room. And Jagannath Mishra said, "Lock the door from the outside." So they locked the door from the outside. And the ladies were there in the middle of the night. The door was locked from the outside, and Jagannath Mishra sat in front of the door to guard it. And the Brahmin cooked. And when he finished and was about to make his offering, actually, Jagannath Mishra called, make sure Nimai remains in the room. They said, the door is locked, you're guarding it. And besides that, he's completely sound asleep. So as the offering was being made, Nimai influenced Nidra Devi, the goddess of sleep, to put everyone in the house asleep. Jagannath Mishra was sleeping. All the ladies were sleeping. The only person that was not sleeping was the pilgrim. He chanted the 6-syllable Gopal mantra, calling Gopal to eat. He looked up, and there was Nimai. His beautiful little lotus hand was filled with rice, and it was in his mouth. And he smiled and glanced upon the Brahmin, and he cried out, much louder. Hi. But no one heard because he was sleeping. The pilgrim looked around and nobody came. And little Nimai smiled upon him and said, what is my fault? He said, you called for me and I come. You're asking me to eat and I come to eat, and then you're in so much distress. What is my fault? He said, because of your attachment to me, because you're calling me with so much love and devotion, it is not possible for me not to come and accept your offerings. And Nimai said, I am your beloved Gopal. At that moment, Nimai transformed into a wonderful, wonderful darshan. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat describes he had 8-arm form, holding the chakra, the conch shell, the lotus flower, and the club, the 4 symbols of Vishnu. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains very nice purport. And the other 4 arms, one was holding a pot of butter, and the other hand was eating it. And 2 hands were playing his flute. Now, usually Krishna doesn't eat butter and play flute while he's in the majestic, holding the majestic symbols of Vishnu. So Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada describes that first he displayed the 4 symbols of Lord Vishnu, and then does Krishna play his flute while he's eating butter? So then 2 of his hands started eating the butter, and then he played upon his flute. Nobody had ever seen this form before. When the pilgrim saw his beloved object of worship, Lord Gopal, he fell to the ground unconscious. And then Nimai touched him, and he came to conscious, and tears were flooding from his eyes. His hairs were standing on end. His limbs were trembling. He was in a state of of ecstatic love. And Nimai said, I am going to tell you a secret you must never disclose to anyone as long as I'm on this earth. He said, I am your Krishna. And you have birth after birth after birth, you are always my loving servant. In fact, you don't remember, but you came as a pilgrim beggar to the house of Nanda Maharaj at the time when I was Krishna, and I revealed to you the same form. He said, I cannot resist your loving offerings. He said, I have descended into this world to establish the Harinam Sankirtan movement, the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. I have come to establish Sankirtan and loving devotional service to Krishna. And I will flood the world, throughout the world. I will flood with love of God through chanting of the names of God. Do not disclose this truth to anyone. But you can stay here in Navadvip and every day come here to see me. And then Nimai became little Nimai again and ran back into the room and laid in the bed and went to sleep. And at that point, this pilgrim was so overwhelmed. The rice that Nimai ate, in his ecstasy, he started smearing his entire body with it, as well as eating it. And he was crying out loudly, Jai Balgopal, Jai Balgopal. And he woke everyone up. And they came running. And as soon as he heard them all come running, he immediately cleaned his body and sat down as if he was eating the rice very peacefully. So everyone was very happy. And that pilgrim Brahmin, as long as Nimai was in Navadvip, he remained there and he would go house to house begging, but every day he would come to witness the beautiful pastimes. And it's so wonderful because during that Adi Leela, before Lord Chaitanya went to Gaya and began Sankirtan pastimes, he was practically the only one who actually knew his real identity. But today, the secret has been disclosed to us all. So we are forever indebted to Srila Prabhupada and all those who have helped him and all of our previous acharyas, that this great gift of Prema Bhakti and Harinam Sankirtan and the great gift of a life based on unity and diversity, aspiring for pure devotional service, has been shared with us and has been entrusted with us to share with each other and all of the world. And in this way, on the holy day of Gaur Purnima, it is an opportunity to deeply express our gratitude and to sincerely recommit ourselves to reciprocate with the great gift of love of God that we've been given. And in this spirit, try to heal our own hearts and heal the whole world as we chant the holy names. Hare Krishna.